There's a certain sound you might remember. A soft metallic click, the slow peel of a lid, and then the unmistakable scent of something warm and familiar. Almost like somebody somewhere cared enough to cook just for you. For millions, it was just dinner. It was quick, easy, and reliable. But long before it sat quietly on pantry shelves and before it became a staple in houses all across America, there was a man. And his story doesn't start in a factory, it starts in a small town far from here. This is the part that was omitted. The man's name was Ettore, and he was born in Piacenza, Italy, I hope I said that right, in 1897. He's from this little place where food wasn't rushed, but was respected. This is a place where recipes weren't written down so much as passed down from generation to generation. By the age of 11, he was already working in kitchens as an apprentice in a world that demanded precision, discipline, and perfection. He had flour on his sleeves and heat at his back. He was watching older chefs move with confidence, and he didn't just learn how to cook in those situations, but he learned how to care through food. By his late teens, Ettore had worked his way into high-end kitchens all across Europe, and then came the opportunity that most young cooks could only dream of. In 1915, he was part of a culinary team that helped cater the wedding feast of Woodrow Wilson. So think about that for just a second. A young teenager helping prepare a meal for a sitting U.S. president. This was just a glimpse of what his future could hold, but it wouldn't be in Italy. Like so many before him, he made a decision that would change everything. He left home. He left behind Italy and his family and his language, and he set out for the United States. He arrived through Ellis Island carrying a little more than his skills and his ambition. And from there, he went on west, eventually landing in Cleveland, Ohio, a city that was booming with industry and hungry for opportunity. Ettore's early years in America weren't glamorous. He worked his way up the only way he knew how, and that was through the kitchen. One of his first major positions was at the Hotel Winton, which is one of the city's finest establishments at the time, and later he ended up at the luxurious Hotel Statler. This wasn't short order cooking, this was fine dining. Precision, presentation, and consistency, and Ettore excelled. Eventually, he and his brothers opened their own restaurant in Cleveland. It was a place they called Il Giardino d'Italia, the Garden of Italy. It didn't take long for word to spread because people came for the food, but they stayed for this authentic Italian experience. And some of the people were names you would recognize. They would see celebrities, industrialists, politicians. Among them, some of the figures that are said to have eaten there are people like Henry Ford and Amelia Earhart. And his reputation wasn't staying local anymore, it was growing. But here's where the story takes a turn, because the thing that made him famous wasn't the people he served inside the restaurant, it was the people that he couldn't. Customers loved the food so much they began asking for something unusual, especially at the time. They would just simply ask, "Can we take this home?" But they didn't just want to take home leftovers or scraps, they wanted the actual meal. They wanted his recipes, and so he started finding ways to send them home with them. So with each meal that he sent out, it was always hand-filled, carefully prepared, and was just this small gesture that revealed something much bigger. And demand grew very quickly, faster than just one single restaurant could handle. So Ettore and his brothers, they made a bold move and just built a factory right there in Cleveland. Now this factory wasn't just to mass produce anything, it was to mass produce quality. Authentic Italian meals packaged for everyday families. Then came World War II, a time where the world needed more than just innovation, it needed support. Now the US military faced this massive challenge. How do you feed millions of soldiers all over the globe with meals that are portable, have a great shelf life, and are actually enjoyable? So Ettore stepped up and he shifted his factory into overdrive. They began producing millions of rations. They were these canned meals that were designed to withstand travel, time, and really harsh conditions. By the peak of the war, his company was producing over 250,000 meals a day. So think about that for just a second. You've got this teenager that came from another country to America with nothing but just pure ambition. and worked his way up through different restaurants under different chefs, learned his own way, then created his own restaurant with his brothers, and the food became so demanding it got this notoriety that landed to him feeding 250,000 meals every single day to servicemen and women all over the world. The best part about these meals is they weren't just calories, they were comfort food. It was, for these soldiers who are millions of miles from home, it just became this small reminder of normalcy, something warm and familiar to them that didn't feel like war. Now, Ettore's contributions didn't go unnoticed. He was awarded the Gold Star Award for excellence in food production for the military. Not as a soldier, but as someone who fed them. And if you aren't aware, the Gold Star is just a symbol in the United States military that signifies that a service member died in the line of duty. It's a way to honor their ultimate sacrifice and their families. After the war, the world changed again, and so did Ettore's business. The brand expanded nationwide, and eventually the company was sold, but his name remained. It's right there stamped on every can, and it's recognized in every grocery store even today. And over time, something interesting happened. People forgot the band, but they remembered the name. Because by this time, it wasn't just a brand, it was a childhood memory. It's a quick meal after school or a solution on a busy night, a quiet staple in millions of homes. And that's the thing about legacy. Sometimes it doesn't live in headlines. It lives in habits, in routines, in simple things that people return to again and again. So the next time that you hear that familiar sound, that soft metal click, the slow peel of the lid, just remember that it didn't actually start in a factory. It started with a boy, Ettore, from Piacenza, Italy, who crossed an ocean, worked in kitchens from Cleveland's finest hotels to owning his own restaurant, someone who served presidents, pioneers, and everyday people just the same, someone who fed soldiers in time of war, and found a way to bring real food to millions. Because the young boy who became the man behind it all, the one whose name you've heard your entire life, wasn't just a chef. He was an immigrant, an innovator, and a problem solver. And his name was Ettore, but you probably know of him as Chef Boyardee, and that is the part that was omitted.